Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video. My name is Sarah and today we are here to talk about something super exciting, and that is my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2023. Now I've never done one of these videos before, but I always like to watch them because it gives me ideas of what's coming out in the new year. But I have so many new releases that I am so excited for from January to June of 2023 that I figured I would do a video and share some of them for you, and hopefully you find some new books that you are particularly interested in. They're kind of ranging across different genres, but there's like a theme of fantasy, thrillers, and horror books that I'm really excited about, which makes sense because fantasy is my main genre and I've been really getting into the horror genre a lot lately, and so it makes sense that those are the majority of what these books are. But without further ado, I'm going to talk about them in the order of their release date, and I'm going to try not to talk about each of them too terribly long. I'm going to sum up the synopsis to the best of my ability because I have 24 of them that I want to talk to you about. So the first one is a debut. It's The House in the Pines by Ana Reyes. It comes out January 3rd and it is a psychological thriller, which is my favorite type of thriller. Basically, we're following our main character who, when she was a teenager, her best friend dropped dead just suddenly out of the blue in front of this dude that was kind of like weird. His name is Frank, and she for years has been really struggling to cope with that trauma, and she's finally kind of reached her point where she is healed from it when she discovers a YouTube video of this other young woman in a diner who also dropped dead right in front of none other than Frank. And so she decides to go into the woods to find his cabin where he lives and confront him about it. And it's supposed to really play with the idea of like hazy memories and what do you actually remember happening, and is that what actually happened or not. And I love that kind of a theme of playing with memories, and I think it's going to be really interesting. It's also, there's supposed to be some sort of like guidebook that she has from her father that she's like only met once, or she's never met him, but it sounds super fascinating and I'm quite excited for that one. So the next book also comes out on January 3rd, and that is The Black House by Carol Johnstone. Now, I read Mirrorland by Carol Johnstone last year and I really enjoyed it. It was a very twisty sort of psychological thriller, and this is supposed to be kind of a gothic remote location thriller where we are following kind of, I think, two different timelines. In one timeline, we have a man who moves to this like remote island in this estate, and storms start to really brew up and cause a lot of havoc on the environment, and he kind of is starting to, I don't know if like break with reality, but kind of reach his like mental breaking point, and something happens. And then we have another character who is in a completely different place, has no idea who this man is or that this island even exists, but she, when she's 5 years old, claims that there was a murder on this island and something happened, and so she's basically somehow knows about whatever it is that that other character is going through happened on the island. And 20 years later she decides to go to the island and actually figure out what happened, but then she starts confronting some very shady people that live there that don't really want to talk about what's happening. It's supposed to be just kind of this very twisty, like what actually happened, and how does she know that there was a murder or a death or some tragedy that happened on the island when she was 5 years old and not even there. And then on January 10th, the sequel to Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo is coming out. It's going to be called Hellbent, and so I won't talk about what Hellbent is about. So in Ninth House, we are following our main character, Alex Stern, and she has just survived a homicide. She is the lone survivor, and she was in with a really shady, not so good crowd. She wakes up in the hospital and and a person from Yale says that they can help her turn her life around if she agrees to work with them, and they tell her that they will give her a full ride to Yale if she decides to join kind of their underground occult secret societies and help kind of maintain them and maintain a sort of balance in their secrecy, and kind of be like a security for them, I guess. And so she ends up getting wrapped up in the occult of Yale, and Hellbent is obviously the follow-up to a myriad of events that happened in Ninth House, and I'm very, very excited about it. I've been waiting for this for almost 3 years now, actually. And then after that, we have another kind of sequel. It's like a 1.5 like sequel novella, and that is Mysteries of Thorn Manor by Margaret Rogerson. This comes out January 17th. This is a follow-up novella to Sorcery of Thorns. And so we are following our two main characters, Nathaniel and Elizabeth, as well as their little demon butler, Silas, as they have to figure out why the wards in their manor are acting up, and instead of just like protecting the occupants and like safeguarding the house, they are instead trapping the occupants inside the house and acting up and causing all sorts of mayhem. So I think it's just going to be a very short little fun adventure of them trying to solve this mystery and figure out what's going on with the house, and kind of where they are after the events of the first book, and I'm very, very excited to be back with these characters. So next we have All Hallows by Christopher Golden, and this comes out January 24th, and I am particularly intrigued by the little tagline. It says, with the 80s nostalgia from Stranger Things, this horror drama from New York Times bestselling author Christopher Golden follows neighborhood families and a mysterious lurking evil on one Halloween day. So we are in Massachusetts, 1984, and it's Halloween Day, and there's these strange children that are appearing that don't seem to belong to anybody. Nobody knows who they are. They're in kind of like these vintage costumes. They look very faded, and they're running around asking for somebody to save them and help them because the Cunning Man is chasing them. And so we've got that going on, and it's kind of also wreaking havoc on tension that is happening within and between two families in particular, which is where like the drama part comes in. But I'm very, very excited because of the reference to Stranger Things and that whole vibe, as well as just the idea of ghost creepy things happening on Halloween. So the next one I'm just gonna talk about real quickly, and that is Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun by Al Cosimino. This comes out January 31st. This is the third book in the Finlay Donovan kind of cozy mystery series. Now, I have only read the first book. I have the second one, and I do plan to read that before Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun comes out. But basically, this is a cozy murder mystery kind of comedy novel series, where we're following Finlay Donovan. She's a single mother, and in the first book, she's an author, and she's describing the plot of her next novel that she's working on to her agent, and they're in like this Panera Bread, and a woman next to their table overhears them, mistakes Finlay Donovan for a hit woman, and then decides to hire her to take care of her spouse. And while Finlay is trying to clear up the whole situation and all the confusion, this spouse actually does end up dying, and it becomes an entire mess, and Finlay ends up really wrapped up in this totally crazy, messy murder investigation. The first book was really fun, it was really funny, and it was very clever as well, and so I'm excited to read the second one, but I'm also just really excited that the third installment will be coming out next year. So the next book, I do want to preface it with a little bit of something. So you know those Goodreads giveaways where like Goodreads, you know, if you have a book on your Goodreads shelf, you'll get like a notification or an email or something saying that a giveaway is happening for that book. And Goodreads works with a publisher to either give away an advanced reader copy, either physically or like a Kindle advanced reader copy of that book, or a finished copy. And it's usually like you've got a certain time period to enter, and they give away anywhere from like, I've seen 10 copies, I've seen 50 copies that they give away, but I've never ever heard of anybody winning one, and I've entered so many of them. But yeah, I started to just think, because I never heard of anybody winning them, I'd never won one, I started to think that it was just like a publicity stunt, and that it was just a way to get people talking or interested in the novel, or remind them that it's coming out soon. Rest assured, I can tell you right now, it is not, they're not fake, they're real, because I won one. And I'm so excited for what it is. I won the Goodreads giveaway for an arc of Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw, which was one of my favorite novels of last year, 2021. And it is still like just... I loved My Heart is a Chainsaw so much, and I've been so excited for this book, and the fact that I have not only an arc but like a physical arc. I just about died when I saw the notification that I won this. So this does come out February 7th. Like I said, this is the sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw. This is going to take place 4 years after the events of My Heart is a Chainsaw. And we're still following our main character, Jade, in her town in Idaho. And a very famous, renowned serial killer escapes from his prison transfer during the middle of this wintry storm, and it's supposed to take place over the course of 36 hours. So he walks into her town, and he is seeking a revenge for 38 Dakota men hanged in 1862. And so it says the bloodletting begins on December 12th, 2019, a Thursday. 36 hours and 20 bodies later, on Friday the 13th, it'll be over. And so I'm just so excited for this. So the next book on my list of 2023 anticipated releases is The Whispering Muse by Laura Purcell. This is another horror novel. I have read and absolutely loved The Silent Companions, and I really enjoyed The Shape of Darkness as well by Laura Purcell. I also have The House of Whispers, which the alternate title is The Bone Corset. So there's two different titles. It's the same novel, but I do have that on my physical TBR that I'm hoping to get to soon. But The Whispering Muse comes out February 9th, and I am just going to actually read you the synopsis because it is quite intriguing, and I want to make sure I get it right. So it says, from the Sunday Times best-selling author comes a gripping tale of obsession, superstition, and ambition set against the atmospheric backdrop of Victorian London. Be careful what you wish for, it may just come true. At the Mercury Theatre in London's West End, rumors are circulating of a curse. It is said that the lead actress Lilith has made a pact with Melpomene, the tragic muse of Greek mythology, to become the greatest actress to ever grace the stage. Suspicious of Lilith, the jealous wife of the theater owner sends dresser Jenny to spy on her, and desperate for the money to help her family, Jenny agrees. What Jenny finds is a woman as astonishing in her performance as she is provocative in her nature. On stage, it's as though Lilith is possessed by the characters she plays, yet off stage, she is as tragic as the muse who inspires her, and Jenny, sorry for her, befriends the troubling actress. But when strange events begin to take place around the theater, Jenny wonders whether the rumors are true, and fears that when the muse comes calling for payment, the cost will be too high. So then my next book that I want to talk about is Sister Maiden Monster by Lucy A. Snyder. It comes out February 21st, and this is a horror fantasy, and it sounds just gruesome and very, very fascinating. And this is another where I am going to read the synopsis because there's a lot going on here. So it says, Sister Maiden Monster is a visceral story set in the aftermath of our planet's disastrous transformation and told through the eyes of three women trying to survive the nightmare. To survive, they must evolve. A virus tears across the globe, transforming its victims in nightmarish ways. As the world collapses, dark forces pull a small group of women together. Erin, once quiet and closeted, acquires an appetite for a woman and her brain. Why does forbidden fruit taste so good? Savannah, a professional BDSM switch, discovers a new turn-on, committing brutal murders for her eldritch masters. Mareva, plagued with chronic tumors, is too horrified to acknowledge her divine role in the coming apocalypse, and as her growths multiply, so too does her desperation. Inspired by her Bram Stoker award-winning Magdala of Migdala, Lucy A. Snyder delivers a cosmic tale about the planet's disastrous transformation and what we become after. And I don't know, I'm just super intrigued by that. It's also really short. It looks like it's supposed to be under 300 pages, so how Snyder is going to pull all of that off in under 300 pages is beyond me, but I am very intrigued and very here for it. So next, in a very, very strong contender for my most anticipated release of next year, is A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. So this is the prequel to her other novel, The Priory of the Orange Tree. It's now in the Roots of Chaos series. And we are set, obviously, in the time before the Priory of the Orange Tree, because it's a prequel. And we are again following several different women from various kingdoms in this very wide, diverse, rich world that she has developed, as their stories all kind of come together when something happens with the dragons. And that's kind of like the basics that I know. I don't really want to know too much more going into this, so that's why my synopsis is very vague, because my knowledge of what's actually going to happen is very vague, because I don't know, I want to go into it blind as I can, just because I'm nervous but really excited for it. After that, we have The Angel Maker by Alex North. This comes out February 28th, and I'm very much looking forward to this because I absolutely loved The Shadows, and I really, really enjoyed his other novel, The Whisper Man, and his ability to write crime novels with this like subtle, potentially supernatural or paranormal kind of vein in them is just super well done and impressive and creepy, and so I've been really looking forward to his next novel, and I'm excited that it is coming out early next year. And again, for this one I am going to read the synopsis. I apologize, I'm doing that quite a lot. I know very little about these books, and the synopses for many of them are quite detailed and complicated, and I want to make sure I get them right. So it says, a dark, suspenseful new thriller about the mysteries of fate, the unbreakable bond of siblings, and a notorious serial killer who is said to know the future. Growing up in a beautiful house in the English countryside, Katie Shaw lived a charmed life. At the cusp of graduation, she had big dreams, a devoted boyfriend, and a little brother she protected fiercely, until the day a violent stranger changed the fate of her family forever. Years later, still unable to live down the guilt surrounding what happened to her brother Chris, and now with a child of her own to protect, Katie struggles to separate the real threats from the imagined. Then she gets the phone call. Chris has gone missing and needs his big sister once more. Meanwhile, Detective Lawrence Page is facing a particularly gruesome crime. A distinguished professor of fate and free will has been brutally murdered just hours after firing his staff. All the leads point back to two old cases, the gruesome attack on teenager Christopher Shaw and the despicable crimes of a notorious serial killer who, legend has it, could see the future. I think that's all that needs to be said. So excited. And then next we have a release coming out on March 2nd, and that is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by S.A. Chakraborty. So S.A. Chakraborty wrote the Daevabad trilogy, which I loved so much. So this new book is focused on pirates, and I'm not like super big into pirate fantasy novels, but the fact that it's written by S.A. Chakraborty, I'm just like, I need to check it out. I need to try it because I feel like I'm still gonna really love it. We're basically following this notorious kind of pirate queen, and she decides that she's going to retire. She's a mother now, but she gets invited for one last big treasure adventure, and it's basically too good to be true, kind of the rewards that she would get from it. So she decides to set off on one last adventure, only to realize she may be stepping into something much bigger than what she initially anticipated. So then the next book comes out March 7th, and that is The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. So this is the first book in Hannah Witten's new series. She did write the For the Wolf duology, which finished up this year, and we're basically following our main character who, when she was younger, escaped a cult that was in kind of like the catacombs of this big city, and she was kind of held captive there because she has death magic, but death magic is very much like you either are held prisoner and made to use it, or you're kind of like killed for having it. And so she has been surviving in this city that she can't leave because her magic is like based in this city, and she's kind of been like surviving on the down low, but one day her and her magic get discovered, and so she gets brought to the king, who gives her an ultimatum. She can either be killed for the fact that she has this magic, or she can help him discover what is happening in these cities and towns, like all surrounding the capital city, because in these cities and towns, people have just been like dropping dead in droves, and nobody's able to figure out why. So she agrees to help him, meanwhile getting really embroiled in the politics, and kind of this forbidden romance with the king's heir. And then in the meantime, her past with the cult in the catacombs is now catching up with her as well. So I'm super excited. I absolutely love Witten's writing style, and I'm very curious to see how atmospheric this new series is going to be in a much different setting. So also coming out March 7th is the 5th book in the Fortuna Soren series, that is Endless Terrors. This is by KJ Sutton. Since this is the 5th book, I won't tell you what this one is about, and I have talked about this series quite a bit on my channel, just because it is an ongoing one that I have been reading, but I will real quick talk about the fact that the first one is about our main character, Fortuna Soren. She is a nightmare. She's thought to be the last of her kind, and being a nightmare means that she can touch a person and feel their fears, and then make them come to life, kind of make these illusions for them. And her brother disappeared 2 years ago, and she's been searching for him and has run into a lot of dead ends. And then she meets a Fey man who says that he knows where her brother is and can help her, but only if she agrees to marry him. And then thus starts a wild story of politics, the Seelie, the Unseelie court, all sorts of like paranormal, fantastical creatures and people, all set in this like urban landscape, and it's a very fun series, and I've really been looking forward to this 5th installment. So coming out March 28th is A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. So this is described as a Southern Gothic novel, and we're following a brother-sister duo, particularly the sister, as they're going home to visit their mother, and while they're used to their mother's house having kind of this very cozy, charming atmosphere, they get there and they find that it's completely like devoid of decoration now. The walls are painted this very sterile, clinical white, and their mother is acting very jumpy and keeps kind of like looking over her shoulder and acting very strange. And after the sister finds a jar of teeth in the rose bush, as well as like constantly seeing vultures circle around the top of the house, she decides she needs to get to the bottom of what is up with this house and what is up up with her mom. Now, admittedly, I've only read the Twisted Ones by Tegan Fisher. I have not gotten further into their backlog, or like their new release that they came out with this year, but I am particularly intrigued with this one. It just sounds super eerie and super interesting. So next, coming out on April 4th, is House of Cotton by Monica Brashears. We are following a main character who's 19 years old and is kind of at a loss for how to turn her life around. She's broke, and she's working kind of this dead-end gas station job on the graveyard shift, but she ends up meeting this mysterious man who walks in at the gas station one night. His name is Cotton, and says that he can give her a very lucrative job modeling for his family's funeral parlor, and so she agrees, but when she gets there, some of his requests start to become weirder and weirder, and she has to figure out how to disentangle herself from this family. It says, sharp as a belted knife, this sly social commentary cuts straight to the bone, revealing the aftermath of the American plantation and what it means to be poor, black, and a woman in the God-fearing South. And it just sounds super interesting. I'm really looking forward to the social commentary that's going to take place in this book, and it just sounds like a very creepy premise as well. Also coming out April 4th is Blind Spots by Thomas Mullen, and I am, again, going to read the synopsis. It says, a riveting crime novel with a speculative edge about the ways of our perceptions of reality can be manipulated. 7 years ago, everyone in the world went blind in a matter of months. Technology helped people adjust to the new normal, creating a device that approximates vision, downloading visual data directly to people's brains. But what happens when someone finds a way to hack it and change what people see? Homicide detective Mark Owens has been on the force since before the blinding. When a scientist is murdered and the only witness insists the killer was blacked out of her vision, Owens doesn't believe her until a similar murder happens in front of him. With suspects ranging from tech billionaires to modernity. With suspects ranging from tech billionaires to anti-modernity cultists, and with the bodies piling up, Owens must conduct an investigation in which he can't even trust his own eyes. Thomas Mullen, the acclaimed author of Darktown and The Last Town on Earth, delivers an unputdownable crime novel about one man's search for truth in a world of surveillance and disinformation that's all too recognizable. And I love that speculative element that he's going to put into this novel. It just sounds so just unsettling and interesting, and I've been really looking to read more crime novels, more detective novels as well. And then on April 25th, In the Lives of Puppets by T.J. Klune is coming out. Now, T.J. Klune wrote The House in the Cerulean Sea, which I have read and absolutely loved, and then he also wrote Under the Whispering Door, which I have not read yet, but I am particularly excited about this one because it deals with robots living in this like little foresty area, and it just sounds super cute, atmospheric, and a very interesting, fun story. T.J. Klune invites you deep into the heart of a peculiar forest and on the extraordinary journey of a family assembled from spare parts. In a strange little home built into the branches of a grove of trees lived 3 robots. Fatherly inventor android Giovanni Lawson, a pleasantly sadistic nurse machine, and a small vacuum desperate for love and attention. Victor Lawson, a human, lives there too. Their family hidden and safe. The day Vic salvages an unfamiliar android labeled Hap, he learns of a shared dark past between Hap and Geo, a past spent hunting humans. When Hap unwittingly alerts robots from Geo's former life to their whereabouts, the family is no longer hidden and safe. Geo is captured and taken back to his old laboratory in the City of Electric Dreams. So together, the rest of Vic's assembled family must journey across an unforgiving and otherworldly country to rescue Geo from decommission or worse, reprogramming. Along the way to save Geo, amid conflicted feelings of betrayal and affection for Hap, Vic must decide for himself, can he accept love with strings attached? Inspired by the adventures of Pinocchio, and like Swiss Family Robinson meets WALL-E in the Lives of Puppets is a masterful standalone fantasy adventure from the beloved author who brought you the previous 2 books that I mentioned. And so it just sounds so cute, and I'm very excited for another cozy fantasy. Alright, and then on May 2nd we have The Ferryman by Justin Cronin, and yet again I'm reading the synopsis. Founded by the mysterious genius known as the Designer, the archipelago of Prospera lies hidden from the horrors of a deteriorating outside world. In this island paradise, Prospera's lucky citizens enjoy long, fulfilling lives until the monitors embedded in their forearms, meant to measure their physical health and psychological well-being, fall below 10%. Then they retire themselves, embarking on a ferry ride to the island known as the Nursery, where their failing bodies are renewed, their memories are wiped clean, and they are ready to restart life afresh. Proctor Bennett of the Department of Social Contracts has a satisfying career as a ferryman, gently shepherding people through their retirement process, and, when necessary, enforcing it. But all is not well with Proctor. For one thing, he's been dreaming, which is supposed to be impossible in Prospera. For another, his monitor percentage has begun to drop alarmingly fast. And then comes the day he is summoned to retire his own father, who gives him a disturbing and cryptic message before being wrestled onto the ferry. Meanwhile, something is stirring. The support staff, ordinary men and women who provide the labor to keep Prospera running, have begun to question their place in the social order. Unrest is building, and there are rumors spreading of a resistance group known as Arrivalists, who may be fermenting revolution. Soon, Proctor finds himself questioning everything he once believed, entangled with a much bigger cause than he realized, and on a desperate mission to uncover the truth. Alright, my camera died. We're back. Next, we have The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw coming out on May 2nd, and this follows a mermaid who has murdered her husband and destroyed his kingdom, that then goes on this journey with a sinister doctor who they go through this journey through this woods, and then they find a village deep in the woods of these ageless children that are overseen by 3 surgeons, and there's some sort of sinister blood game going on in this story, and it just sounds so weird and outrageous, and I'm really looking forward to it. After that, we have Fractal Noise by Christopher Paolini coming out May 16th. This is the sequel to Sleep in a Sea of Stars, and to be honest, that's all I really know about it. I purposely am not really reading the synopsis because this is another one that I want to go into it blind, but I'm very, very excited for it because I did really enjoy the space opera story of To Sleep in a Sea of Stars. And then on May 25th, we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This is something very, very different than what R.F. Kuang has been doing. So this is a contemporary novel following 2 authors. One is an Asian woman, one is a white woman, and the Asian woman is writing something that is going to be kind of the next big novel. However, she dies, and so the white woman takes the Asian woman's manuscript and then uses kind of a pen name that makes it seem like she is indeed an Asian woman, and then sees a lot of success off of it, off of a story that is not meant to be hers to tell. And I just love R.F. Kuang to no end, and I'm so excited to see kind of this new side to her storytelling, something that is not fantasy or historical fiction at all. So it'll be very, very interesting. And then on June 8th, we have The Shadow Cabinet by Juno Dawson. This is the sequel to Her Majesty's Royal Coven. So the second book in what I think is supposed to be a trilogy. And so obviously I can't talk about what the sequel is about, but Her Majesty's Royal Coven is set in our world, but witches exist. However, they're kept like secret, but there is a government agency called Her Majesty's Royal Coven of witches that then work in tandem with kind of the normal human government, and we follow 4 different friends that have since grown up. They were childhood friends. They're now in their 30s. They're all witches. They have various levels of interaction with this government agency, and they've kind of stayed friends but have drifted apart and are then pulled together because of a prophecy that is said to destroy Witchkind as they know it, and they're inadvertently pulled together to try to stop this prophecy, and that's kind of where the first book starts, and The Shadow Cabinet will be the sequel. And then last on my list, June 27th, The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland is coming out. I absolutely loved House of Hollow. I loved just the story itself, Crystal Sutherland's writing style, the atmosphere, kind of just the creepy turns that the story took. So I'm super excited for her next standalone novel that will be coming out. So the tagline is, it's a darkly seductive witchy thriller where though both men and demons lurk in shadows, girls refuse to go quietly into the night. So it says, Zara Jones believes in magic because the alternative is too painful to bear. That her sister was murdered by a serial killer and there is precisely nothing she can do to change it. If there's anything Zara cannot stand, it's feeling powerless, so she decides she will do whatever it takes, even if that means partaking in the occult, to bring her sister back from the dead. Jude Wolfe might be the daughter of a billionaire, but she is also undeniably cursed. After a deal with a demon went horribly wrong, her soul is now slowly turning necrotic. Flowers and insects die in her wake, and monstrous things come to taunt her in the night. If Jude can't find the right someone to fix her mistake, she fears she'll die very soon. Enter Emmer Bryn, the solution to both Zara and Jude's predicaments. The daughter of a witch, Emmer sells spells to women in desperate situations, willing to sacrifice a part of their soul in exchange for a bit of power, a bit of magic to change their lives. But Emmer has a dark past all her own, and as her former clients are murdered one by one, she knows it's followed her all the way to London. As Zara and Jude enter Emmer's orbit, they'll have to team up to stop the killer before they each end up next on his list. And I just think it's gonna have that dark, witchy, kind of earthy vibe to it that House of Hollow had as well, and I'm super, super excited. So those are the 24 books that I am the most excited for that are coming out in the beginning of next year, between January and June. So if you're excited for any of these books, or you have any that you're excited for that I haven't heard of and didn't put on this list, let me know down in the comments below. I always love to hear from you guys. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you consider sticking around and subscribing if you haven't already. But as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!